What is up, everybody? Happy Wednesday and welcome to the Early Edge. Not a lot of sports this week, but we're getting to some WNBA, some NBA Summer League, some MLB, and don't forget, golf starts at 1:30 in the morning over in Scotland, and we've got two tournaments. So technically, it goes to about 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday, so a lot on the horizon, including Major League Baseball coming back. Let's take a look at the recap screen. We had a couple winning days in a row, but this is not going to cut it. Obviously, we do not want to go 1-4. We missed the WNBA plays. We missed the Summer League plays. Buckets gets the split, gets our lone win. So thank you to Buckets for that. But we got to improve on that. We're not going to force any bets, though. We're not going to just come with 5 or 6 or 7 bets today just so that you have some material. But if you have bets in the chat, let us know what they are. But we do have bets coming your way. And we're going to do it with Martin Green and Calvin Wetzel, who some of you haven't seen on this show before. He's all over HQ. He's all over SportsLine. You can get his content. He's doing a lot of WNBA stuff. Calvin, I think you've been on this show before, but it's been a little bit. How are you today?
I'm good. It's good to be back. Yeah, I think this is my first time on the show this WNBA season. I have been on before, like you said, but we got one more day of WNBA games before the WNBA All-Star break. I know MLB All-Star just wrapped up. So I'm excited to get some bets in before we go on break.
That's right. We got a 1 o'clock game, I believe, and a 7:30 game today. I'm a little mad at you, Calvin, because you have 2 picks, which I absolutely love. But if you were truly a man of the early edge people, or a person of the early edge people, you would have brought a play for the 1 o'clock game. So we would have had an afternoon sweat, but I believe both of your picks are the 7:30 game. But that's what I mean. We don't force picks. We're not just going to bring an afternoon pick just so that we have something to bet if it's not a prime bet. Martin Green, how are you today? South of London. How's everything going?
I'm very well, thank you, Sia. Yeah, the Euros ended in disappointment for English soccer fans. They lost to Spain in the final, so congratulations to Spain. And Argentina won Copa America. So the big major international tournaments are over, but we still have a lot of Major League Soccer. There's lots of leagues taking place across Northern Europe and Asia too. So still lots of leagues to get our teeth into, and got a couple of soccer picks from MLS later.
All right. Joe Neuenfeld says, I love having Martin without the Tim Doyle shenanigans. Martin, it's not NBA season anymore, so we don't have as much of Tim Doyle. Do you miss him, though? I know when we started off shows, he's always pestering you. Do you miss that brotherly back and forth?
I must admit, I do miss it a bit. Yeah, he's like the big brother I never had. So looking forward to the start of a new NBA season, so we can keep talking about all the things we don't have in England, like cars and other technology
and movies, Star Wars movies and the like. Okay, so I want to get Calvin. Let's get right to the WNBA. Speaking of the NBA, Martin, we'll transition to the W real quick though. Bradley Jacobs has a pick in the chat. Miami versus Toronto, both teams to score and over 2.5. I believe that's a parlay at -138. And Minnesota versus DC United, both teams to score over 2.5 at -152. And then finally, Vancouver versus Sporting KC, both teams to score over 2.5, -110. Martin, when we get to you, if you have any comments on any of those three, feel free to jump in. But either way, Bradley, thank you for putting picks in the chat. If you all have picks in soccer or Summer League or WNBA, go ahead and put them in the chat. But we've got picks for the WNBA right now. Calvin, I mentioned it. We got a 1 o'clock game, and then we've got a 7:30 game. You've got a couple of props in the 7:30 WNBA affair.
Well, I know you're looking for some early ones. So real quick, if anyone does want to sweat anything out, this isn't going to be on the recap screen, but I like the under in that first game in the low 150s. And I like Tina Charles under 8.5 rebounds because Ryan Howard is back, should take some of the rebounds. But in terms of the main plays here from this late game, I had to go with the game that should be more fun for the main plays, because that early one, that's going to be ugly, low scoring game. This late one, Fever, Dallas, 2 good offenses, bad defenses, really high total. It's going to be fun. And we're going to play a couple props along those lines in terms of the high scoring angle. We're going to start with Kelsey Mitchell over 17.5 points for the Fever. Dallas defense has been struggling. This is the worst defensive rating in the league. And if the season ended today, they would have the 4th worst defensive rating of all time in this league, as well as a top 4 opponent points per game mark. So they really can't stop anyone right now. Books have not done a good job of adjusting opponent player points props for this. And Kelsey Mitchell, she's right about at her average here, 17.1. Her line's at 17.5. She is the leading scorer on this team. It's not Caitlin Clark, as a lot of people believe it is. Kelsey Mitchell. The Wings have allowed 8 opponent leading scorers in a row to clear their average, most of them by a mile. A few of those hit 30. A lot of them hit 25. So I think Kelsey Mitchell should easily clear this 17.5 line. They do have Caitlin Clark's line adjusted up. She's averaging 16.8, and they have her at 20.5. With the volume that they see on Caitlin Clark bets with her name, they'll get pounded if they get her wrong. But they got Kelsey Mitchell wrong. So we need to take advantage of that and hit her over. She's also been getting more minutes lately, 33 plus in her last 5 games. But even if I put her at her season average of 31 in my projections, I still have her projected right about 20 points with a 64% chance to clear this over. So I love that one. Also on the other side, we're going with another over. Arike Ogunbowale over 4.5 assists at -115. Both of these, you can find them on DraftKings, but they're at some other places too if you shop around. Arike is averaging over 5 a game. She's even better at home, averaging almost 6 a game and over in 7 of 10 at home. She's facing an Indiana defense who hasn't been as bad as this Dallas defense, but it is the second worst in the league in terms of defensive rating, 4th worst in terms of opponent assists. I'm not sure why books are hanging her below her average when she should be above. This line should be juiced heavily over on the 4.5 or even just hung at 5.5. That's where I would project her, about a 63% chance to go over 4.5. So I love this one as well. Both of these have been on the move. Some books are up to 18.5 now on Kelsey Mitchell at plus money. I would still take that as well. Arike was at plus money. Now she's at -115. So don't wait around. Go get these as soon as you can.
Interesting note on Arike Ogunbowale. I believe that's the sister of Dare Ogunbowale, which is interesting to note. And I will say, I forgot to mention, we're 50 days away from NFL kickoff. So if you have a favorite number 50, there aren't a ton of number 50s that I could sink my teeth into. Mike Singletary, of course. AJ Hawk was number 50. Once we start getting into like the lower 40s and 30s, we start to get some of those fantasy players that we know and love. But again, 50 days away from NFL kickoff. I can tell you right here, right now, that this week I'll be recording the first episodes for Fantasy Football Today DFS. So if you're not already subscribed to that podcast, again, FFT DFS, Fantasy Football Today DFS, me and Mike McClure, Megan Schaub, we go back and forth with our favorite fantasy plays, but we're going to start off with a little best ball and just regular generic fantasy content. Calvin, thank you for that. Can I ask you though, Prop Bet King looks like he has a couple of plays that if you have a response to them, that's great. He said Caroline Clark under 3.5 3-pointers. I don't know if that's meant to be Caitlin Clark, and then Aaliyah Boston over 15.5 points. Any leans one way or the other, stayaways? What are your thoughts there? Clark under 3.5 3-pointers and Aaliyah Boston over 15.5 points.
Yeah, normally I would take Caitlin Clark under 3.5 in a lot of matchups, but again, Dallas is the worst defense in the league, one of the worst all time. I would stay away from any unders and points and assists in this game. I do love that Aaliyah Boston over as well. I would have her close to 17, so 15.5. That's a great line. I would definitely take that one. If you're going to take any unders in this game, I would take them on rebounds because they're not going to be very many missed shots, but I wouldn't take any unders on points, threes, assists.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Good response and analysis there, considering that defensive matchup. Eric David says, Sia, any love for the Barracuda this week? Has to be some low-hanging fruit there. Yeah, it was low-hanging fruit last week. I tweeted out the first-round leaders, and we hit Pearson Coody at 61 in that alt event. I've already tweeted out my winners, actually, and I put them out on the early wedge as well for the Barracuda. I'll probably have some sort of matchup or 3-ball on tomorrow's early edge show. And for the record, that's the first for the record of the day. My SportsLine article comes out in probably a couple of hours. A lot of that's from the early wedge content, but I am updating my first round leaders for that SportsLine article. So you're going to want to check that out on SportsLine. I'll tell you more about how to become a member of SportsLine later. But Eric, if you haven't already seen my tweet for the Barracuda outrights, check that out. But all the other content, of course, early wedge and on SportsLine. But if you want to make any of those golf bets or any of the bets Calvin Wetzel just recommended, well, go to BetMGM. New BetMGM customers can sign up today and get up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Just place your first wager of at least $10, and you'll receive up to $1,500 instantly if your bet loses with bonus code EDGE. That's bonus code EDGE, E-D-G-E. Got to put that bonus code in to be able to get the promo each and every time. So definitely, if you're not already if you don't already have an account at BetMGM, and it's not just because they're a sponsor, this is a really, really good sports book. It's a top sports book, in my opinion, maybe tied for first with one other that shall remain nameless. Really like their promotional offers, but also really like their betting options and their numbers as well. All right, we got to get to my golf pick. I've got a round one matchup for the Open Championship. I gave out a 3-ball yesterday, but I'm giving out a head-to-head in just a few seconds because first we got to hear a message from our partners. We're back on the early edge, and I'm going right to golf again. This tournament, it's not the Scottish Open. We had that last week, but it was the same time. That started at around 2 a.m. This one starts a little earlier at around 1:30. It's the Open Championship, the last major. I gave you a 3-ball with Corey Connors yesterday. Today, I'm going to a similar type of game, similar type of course fit and skill set. I'm going to Tom Kim, who I'm considering adding to that SportsLine article as a first-round leader. But I like Tom Kim minus 115 over that very man who won the Scottish Open last week, partially thanks to a convenient drop a few holes down the stretch there. But I'm taking him over Robert McIntyre. Listen, Robert McIntyre, I do like. I was mad at myself for not having him as a long shot outright last week. It stung me. I had him the week before. With all that said, I actually think Tom Kim is a better course fit here. And I wonder, we heard comments from Robert McIntyre right after he won the Scottish Open that he'd probably be too drunk or too intoxicated to make the Monday rounds or the Monday practice rounds or to make it over to the Open Championship. I think that, and I don't know if he was being tongue in cheek or not, but I think he is a guy that personality-wise is probably going to let his foot off the gas a little bit here. And Tom Kim has been in really good form. And while many of you might think, well, Robert McIntyre might be the better link-style player, if you look at what Tom Kim has done on link-style courses and at the Open Championship, he's been pretty good. He's been what I would say is surprising on these types of courses. His form, even though Robert McIntyre won last week, it's coming in a lot better than McIntyre. Tom Kim has been very consistent. That's what I'm looking for in a round matchup. It's what I'm looking for in a tournament matchup as well. So I like Tom Kim. Again, this one starts in the morning hours, so you got to get it in today. Tom Kim minus 115 over Robert McIntyre. If you have picks that don't have this at your sports book, go ahead and tweet at me or put it in the chat what you might like or what your book might have, and I'll tell you whether I like it or whether it's a lean or a play or a stay away. But again, Tom Kim over Robert McIntyre should be at a couple of different books, major books. Check that one out for sure. All right, speaking of golf, the early wedge, it's in your feed already, so definitely go back and look because it's not just my picks. It's Eric Cohen's picks. It's Patrick McDonald's picks. We talked about the Barracuda as well in parts of that show. So you're going to want to check that out before you make any lineups or before you make any bets for the Open Championship. I would keep an eye on the weather. We mentioned it during the early wedge. That can change things if the weather shifts dramatically. This is a coastal course. The winds can pick up, die down. We'll have to kind of wait and see there. But definitely, if you can, keep an eye on the weather. Doesn't look like anything drastic on Thursday and Friday. All right, we've covered golf. We've covered WNBA. But Martin Green, well, I gave out Bradley Jacobs picks earlier today, but we haven't gotten your soccer picks. You've got a couple for us. What are they?
I do see her, yeah. I do like Bradley Jacobs' picks, just to say at the start. One of them is a game that I've actually previewed on SportsLine, the Inter Miami versus Toronto game. I also have both teams to score in that one. And I think that Inter Miami might just have enough quality to win that one, despite missing Messi and Suarez, who are still coming back from Copa America. But I have two Major League Soccer games that I'm focused on today, starting with Seattle Sounders, who have been very impressive at home this season. 5 wins, 5 draws, and just 1 defeat from 11 games at Lumen Field. It's turning into a bit of a fortress once again for the Sounders. And I think they should be too strong for St. Louis City, who are winless on the road so far this season. Looking at the head-to-heads, the Sounders have won all 3 games against St. Louis since they joined the league as an expansion team last year, including a 2-1 away win in St. Louis back in May. St. Louis have a very poor defensive record. They're often involved in high-scoring games when they play on the road. But the Sounders have a solid defense, and they are very rarely involved in high-scoring clashes. Their home matches have averaged just 2.27 goals per game so far this season, and only one of their last 16 matches went over the 4.5 goal line. So for that reason, I'm just combining Seattle to win with under 4.5 goals at -120. And I'm also going for Vancouver Sporting Kansas City, the game that Bradley mentioned in the chat. I think it should be an entertaining game between these teams. Both teams to score has actually paid off in 20 out of 24 games featuring Sporting KC so far this season. Terrible defensive record, just 2 clean sheets all season. They concede an average of 1.63 goals per game, but they're very dangerous in attack. So they're a really, really interesting team to watch. Both teams to score has also landed in 7 out of Vancouver's 9 home games so far this year. They just beat St. Louis 4-1 at the weekend, so they'll be full of confidence right now. Should see plenty of goals in this game. I just went for both teams to score because I thought -150 was a good set of odds, but I would also go for both teams to score and under 2.5 goals if you're looking for a bit more value.
Yeah, there you have it. We got plenty of soccer picks from the chat, from Martin Green. We got the WNBA picks, and I got to tell you, Danny Brasco's in the chat. He reminds us, and Martin, I'll go back to you in just a second. Danny Brasco reminds us that we're Kiko Alonso days away from NFL season, but he's dropping some fighting knowledge. There's a lot of questions going back and forth to Danny Brasco about fight nights. So check that out. You got a couple of minutes to ask him anything you want there. Martin, did you have any follow-up?
Oh, yeah, I did just want to mention that if you are really just feeling a bit degenerate and you really want a sweat this afternoon or this morning, there's a game taking place in about 40 minutes' time between FK Struga and Slovan Bratislava. And I think the Slovan Bratislava, the Slovak champions, should be too strong for them. They beat this team 4-2 in the first leg last week, and I think they should win this second leg. You get +100 at BetMGM on that one. So if you really want, it's not an official play, but I'm leaning towards Slovan Bratislava. So if you do want something to bet on this morning, that's my suggestion.
I'm not going to lie, based on the pronunciation level there, I'm glad that's not on the recap screen. But listen, ladies and gentlemen, it pays to watch live, right? Unless it loses. But hey, if we can get out an extra pick, an extra lean, we're gonna give it out. I absolutely love that since it's happening in the next couple of hours here. Calvin, before we go to the recap screen, I'm looking at questions here. Joseph Rackett asks, do you like Tina Charles under 8.5 rebounds?
I do. Yeah, that was one of those ones I mentioned off the top. I actually liked it anyway, even before we got the news that Ryan Howard is back. Ryan Howard is Atlanta Dream's best player, missed about a month. And we just found out yesterday that she is going to be back for this game. She's going to take some of those rebounds away. And I even liked it before then. And we also might get Nafisa Collier back, the Lynx star on the other side, who's missed a couple weeks here. She's questionable and she averages close to 10 rebounds a game. So if she ends up playing, that'll take even more rebounds away. I liked this anyway. And the injury news is only trending towards helping this play. So I really love that one a lot, actually. Yeah, Tina Charles under 8.5.
All right, Tina Charles under 8.5. Les O'Connor Jr. asks Tom Kim versus Theegala. I do lean Tom Kim there. To be honest with you, though, it would just be a lean. I'm not entirely sure what to do with Theegala. I think he could have a great tournament, or he could completely blow up on some of the holes that are super dangerous here. Part of the reason I like people like Tom Kim and Corey Connors and Colin Morikawa, which those are some of the names you heard, Aaron Rye during the early wedge. And again, go back and watch that or listen to it in your podcast feed if you haven't already, is because they have a certain level of consistency with their accuracy and their iron play, and pretty good putters as well, that lends itself to not having issues with some of those blow up holes. It's not a super hard course. There are birdie opportunities, but there's also some holes that you can really get sideways on. And so maybe that's just too conservative of an approach for me, particularly in the outright market. But when it comes to matchups and things like that, that conservative approach in terms of game style, gameplay, that's kind of what I'm looking for, particularly out here. And that's why Theegala, I'm just not 100% sure what to do with, but the talent is there, which is why that wouldn't be an official play less. It would just be a lean. As I scan for maybe some last second questions, Joe Neuenfeld says, this is a great trio. Calvin, Martin Green, Sia Nejad. I absolutely agree. All right, I'm looking for more questions. I don't think we have anything that I've missed. If we have, I apologize. Let's take a look at the recap screen before we get out of here. Again, everybody, thanks for being in here with us. I know it seems like a slow week, but we're trying to deliver picks every single day, quality picks at that. My first quality pick today, Tom Kim, -115 over Robert McIntyre. Emphasis, this is a round one matchup. This is not a tournament matchup, although I suppose I like the tournament matchup here as well if it's offered. But this specifically is a round one matchup. Tom Kim, -115 over Bobby Mack. Martin Green, Sounders money line and the under 4.5 at -120. And Vancouver Sporting KC, both teams to score, -150. Calvin Wetzel, Kelsey Mitchell over 17.5 points at -120. And Enrique Agumbawale over 4.5 assists, -115. Big Cheesy says, good luck today, fam. I say that very same thing back to you. Thanks for being in here. Good luck today. Let's cash some tickets. And listen, we've got all this stuff right around the corner. We'll be back tomorrow with a lot more golf picks. We've got a lot of other sports that are going, maybe some of the fringe sports that you consider. We're going to have picks in those as well. And of course, baseball starts back up on Friday. We're going to have NFL futures, college football futures, college basketball futures. It's all straight ahead on the early edge. On behalf of Calvin Wetzel, Martin Green, Jake the Snake on the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s. I'm the Counselor of Cash. This is the early edge. We rest our case.